Thank you for joining us for the Title I Part A for Beginners training that was conducted on November 7th, 2022. During this training, you will hear from Vivian Smurl, Program Director for the Title I Part A program, and from me, Jaime Huerta, State Director for the Title I Part A program.
Our goal during this presentation is that participants will gain a better understanding of the statutory requirements for Title I Part A and the general use of funds requirements for the program, and become familiar with the resources that are available to assist in the administration of the program. Before we begin, however, I want to give our standard disclaimer concerning the information that we will discuss. This presentation is intended to provide general information and guidance to Texas LEAs and reflects the agency's current understanding of statute and applicable federal guidance. The content of this presentation is subject to change as a result of further potential information and guidance provided by federal agencies that have regulatory oversight over these programs. This presentation does not constitute legal advice. The Title I Part A program was first authorized under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 as part of Lyndon B. Johnson's War on Poverty. It has been reauthorized several times. The current version is the Every Student Succeeds Act of 2015. So you will see references to ESEA as amended, as well as to ESSA. Both are referring to the current version of the statute. The purpose of the Title I Part A program is to provide all children significant opportunity to receive a fair, equitable, and high-quality education and to close educational achievement gaps. Here are some of the resources that we will be mentioning today. Our goal is not to teach you everything about the Title I Part A program in the next hour, but we do hope to make you more familiar with how the requirements are structured and what resources are available to give you information.
Today's training is intended to be an overview of a majority of the Title I Part A program requirements, so you may feel like we are taking you on a race. As we take you through the Title I Part A program requirements, you may ask yourself, why are there so many requirements? Well, the Title I Part A program is one of the largest federal programs administered by the U.S. Department of Education, and the federal government's investment in our schools comes with accountability to maximize the use of federal funds. In the 2021-2022 school year, there were 1,175 LEAs that applied for and received Title I Part A funding in the state of Texas. 6,367 campuses operated a Title I Part A program, of which 6,285 campuses operated a school-wide program, and 82 campuses operated a targeted assistance program. The Title I Part A program in Texas benefited over 3.5 million students from across the state. Texas received over $1.4 billion in Title I Part A funding that was allocated to LEAs as per the federal funding formulas. We will now begin with an overview of the Title I Part A statutory requirements. I Part A requirements referenced today are from the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 as amended by the Every Student Succeeds Act in 2015. The Title I Part A statute is broken into sections. In this training, we will review the requirements noted in the following sections and/or provide you with information on how to obtain additional information related to some of the requirements. The sections of the Title I Part A statute include Section 1112, Local Educational Agency Plans, 1113, Eligible School Attendance Areas, 1114, School-wide Programs, 1115, Targeted Assistance Schools, 1116, Parent and Family Engagement, 1117 participation of children enrolled in private schools, 1118 fiscal requirements, and 1119 coordination requirements. When LEAs apply for Title I Part A funds, they are certifying that they will adhere to the requirements noted in the program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances referenced here. They are what LEAs accept when completing the SC 5003 on e-grants at the beginning of the application process. In the program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances document, there are 92 items related to statutory requirements under the Title I Part A program. The 92 items are referenced on 21 pages of the document and organized into 9 topic areas as referenced on the screen. During the presentation, we will make reference to where in statute the requirements are referenced and where they can be found, as well as where the requirements being referenced can be found in the TEA program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances document. The program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances document can be accessed by going to the TEA Grant Opportunities webpage, searching for and locating the most recent ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant application, and by scrolling down to the Application and Support Information section. All the documents related to the ESSA Consolidated application can be found in that section, including the ESSA Program-Specific Provisions and Assurances document.
Section 1112 of the Title I Part A statute describes the requirements for the local education agency plans. These statutory requirements are the basis for the program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances, which the LEAs agree to when they complete their consolidated federal grant application. They are what LEAs accept when completing the SC 5000 on e-grants at the beginning of the application process. LEA stands for Local Educational Agency. It is used in the federal statute to refer to both traditional school districts, whether independent school districts or consolidated independent school districts, and to charter schools or charter school systems. In Section 1112, the statute includes requirements for the Title I Part A LEA program plan. These may be a separate plan, or they may be incorporated into the District Improvement Plan, or DIP, that is required by the State Education Code. The requirements are related to the timely and meaningful consultation of specific stakeholders in the development of the LEA plan, the coordination of the plan with other federal programs, the alignment of the LEA plan with challenging state academic standards, and the periodic review and revision of the LEA plan. Section 1112 also includes the statutorily required descriptions that must be incorporated into the LEA plan. Each of the required descriptions is discussed in more detail in the Title I Part A program guide. Each LEA should ensure that descriptions of how the LEA is addressing each of these requirements are included in the LEA's Title I Part A program plan, whether that has been incorporated into the District Improvement Plan or is a separate document. LEAs that have reserved any Title I Part A funds for use at the LEA level should follow the Use of Funds document to ensure that the use of funds is appropriate. This includes ensuring that the reserved funds are used only to benefit Title I Part A served campuses. There is an exception in that the LEA may use Title I Part A funds to serve homeless students at non-Title I Part A campuses and to serve students in local facilities for the neglected. The LEA must have either a valid written supplement not supplant methodology for allocating state and local funds to its campuses or a valid statement of exemption. Examples of both of these are in the Supplement Not Supplant Handbook. Activities or resources must be identified in the current year LEA Comprehensive Needs Assessment and included in the current year LEA Title I Part A Program Plan or District Improvement Plan. The activities must be reasonable, necessary, and allocable under the grant and allowable under the Title I Part A program. The LEA must ensure that expenditures meet all EDGAR requirements. EDGAR stands for Education Department General Administrative Regulations. The LEA must also ensure that all LEA policies and procedures are followed. In addition to the requirements and descriptions that we have already mentioned, we want to emphasize several assurances that LEAs make when accepting the provisions and assurances. These are also included in Section 1112, and they are in the General Assurances section of the Provisions and Assurances document. These are related to services to migratory children and formerly migratory children, equitable services and timely and meaningful consultation with eligible private schools, participation in the National Assessment of Educational Progress, increasing program effectiveness through coordination and integration of services, coordination with child welfare agencies and foster care transportation, teacher and paraprofessional certification requirements, and early childhood education services. LEAs also make assurances related to parents' right to know. These are assurances that the LEA will notify parents that they have the right to request information about the professional qualifications of their children's teachers, that the LEA will provide parents with information about each of the state academic assessments required under Title I Part A and about other state and local assessments, that the LEA will provide parents with timely notice when students have been assigned or taught for 4 or more consecutive weeks by a teacher who does not meet state certification requirements, that parents may request information related to student assessment participation and information related to language instruction. This information to parents must be provided in an understandable and uniform format, and to the extent practicable, provided in a language that the parents can understand. If you have questions related to the LEA plan requirements, whether concerning the descriptions that are needed in the plan or the assurances that the LEA agrees to by applying for the Title I Part A funds, please check the Frequently Asked Questions document that is available on our Title I Part A website. Or if you find that your question has not yet been addressed, please send it to us at essasupport@tea.texas.gov.
Section 1113 of the Title I Part A statute describes the requirements for eligible school attendance areas. The Title I Part A program is a campus-based program. Although there are provisions in the federal law that allow the LEAs to reserve funds at the LEA level for required and authorized activities, LEAs must allocate a majority of their Title I Part A funds to eligible campuses. LEAs receiving Title I Part A funds must operate either school-wide or targeted assistance programs at the eligible campuses. Campus allocations must be based on the number of low-income students at the eligible campuses. The requirements for allocating such funds can be found in Section 1113 of the Title I Part A statute. Allocating funds to campuses is a 3-step process. Step 1 is determining poverty counts. Step 2 is ranking and identifying eligible campuses. And Step 3 is allocating funds to eligible campuses. Let's now take a detailed look at each of the steps. We will be going over the process for determining poverty counts. However, it is important to note that LEAs with an enrollment of fewer than 1,000 students or LEAs only operating one school are exempt in statute from having to use the poverty measures to determine which of its schools receive Title I funds. Such LEAs may use other criteria, such as academic performance or the grade span of its schools, to determine which of its schools receive Title I funds, or it may choose to allocate Title I funds to all of its schools. To determine the number of public school students from low-income families, the ESSA statute provides an LEA the option to use the number of public school children eligible for free or reduced price lunch under the Richard B. Russell National School Lunch Act, including children counted through the community eligibility provision. The number of public school children and families receiving assistance under the state program funded under Title IV Part A of the Social Security Act, which is a temporary assistance for needy families. The number of public school children eligible to receive medical assistance under the Medicaid program. The number of public school children ages 5 to 17 in poverty as counted in the most recent LEA level census poverty data approved by the U.S. Department of Education, or the number of public school children counted by the LEA using a composite of any of the above measures. If an LEA chooses to use ages 5 to 17 in poverty data, be advised that because census data are generally not available at the school level, if an LEA uses this measure, it would most likely be part of a composite with one or more of the additional measures noted here. After the LEA has determined which poverty measure will be used to identify the number of low-income children for the LEA and all campuses, the next step requires identifying campuses that are eligible to be allocated Title I Part A funds to operate either a school-wide program or targeted assistance program. An LEA must first establish overall Title I Part A eligibility in order for a campus to operate one of the Title I Part A campus-based programs. The process for identifying eligible campuses is known as the rank and serve process. In step 2, we will look at 4 steps within this step of ranking and identifying eligible campuses. The LEA begins the process by ranking campuses in order of poverty without regard to the grade span they serve. After an LEA has ranked all of its schools by percentage of poverty, the ESSA statute requires the LEA to first allocate, in rank order of poverty, Title I funds to its schools above 75% poverty, including any middle schools or high schools. Thus, before an LEA can decide how to determine eligibility for any school with a poverty percentage that does not exceed 75%, it must allocate Title I funds to all its schools above 75% poverty. After an LEA has ranked all of its campuses by percentage of poverty and identified campuses with a poverty percent above 75%, if funds remain, an LEA may choose to serve high schools with a poverty percentage between 50% and 75% in rank order of poverty. The implementation of this option occurs before serving any other grade span. After an LEA has ranked all of its campuses by percentage of poverty, identified campuses with a poverty percent above 75%, and has determined if high schools above 50% poverty will be served, if funds remain, the LEA has several other options for serving the remaining campuses. After an LEA has served all of its campuses with a poverty rate above 75%, if funds remain, the LEA may serve lower ranked eligible campuses as per several other options. These options include the LEA's poverty percentage, serving a campus above 35% poverty, grade span grouping, 1-year transition, feeder pattern, EdFlex individual programmatic waiver, optional method, and direct certification. Now we will examine step 3 of the process, which is allocating Title I Part A funds to eligible campuses. There are three different ways in which an LEA may determine campus allocations. The LEA can determine campus allocations on an LEA-wide basis, by grade span, and when the 125% rule must be applied. ESSA requires an LEA to allocate Title I funds to campuses identified as eligible and selected to participate in rank order based on the total number of public school children from low-income families in each school. An LEA is not required to allocate the same per pupil amount to each participating school. If an LEA allocates different per pupil amounts to participating campuses, the LEA must allocate a per pupil amount that is equal to or higher to campuses with higher poverty rates than it allocates to campuses with lower poverty rates. In contrast to determining allocations on an LEA-wide basis, an LEA can choose to determine allocations within grade spans. When determining campus allocations using the grade span grouping method, the LEA must ensure that it allocates Title I Part A funds to its campuses with a poverty percentage above 75% first. If the LEA has funds remaining, the LEA has the discretion to allocate the remaining funds by grade span. When determining campus allocations using the grade span grouping method, the LEA also has the flexibility not to serve a grade span. However, if a campus within a grade span has a poverty percentage above 75%, then that campus must be served. Now let's take a look at the circumstances in which an LEA would be required to apply the 125% rule. As mentioned previously, an LEA has discretion to establish a per pupil amount for each Title I Part A eligible campus, and that amount need not be the same per pupil amount. However, if an LEA has an LEA-wide low-income percentage below 35%, the LEA may choose to serve campuses either district-wide or by grade span in rank order of poverty down to the LEA low-income percentage. If the LEA chooses to serve any campus below 35% low income, the 125% rule comes into effect. The 125% rule requires an LEA to allocate an amount for each low-income child in each participating Title I school that is at least 125% of the LEA's allocation per low-income child. There are some additional allocation flexibilities provided by ESSA that we will examine further. Skipping and a related exception. Skipping is an exception to the requirements described with respect to allocating Title I funds to campuses in rank order of poverty. It permits an LEA to elect not to serve, in example, skip, an eligible school that has a higher percentage of students from low-income families if the school meets the comparability requirements in ESSA section 1118C. The school receives supplemental funds from state or local sources that it spends according to the requirements in ESSA sections 1114 or 1115, in example, on programs that meet the intent and purpose of Title I Part A, and the supplemental funds a school spends from other sources equal or exceed the amount it would receive under Title I. Before an LEA makes a decision to skip a campus, they must be aware of the statutory requirements associated with a program that meets the intent and purposes of Title I Part A. There is a related exception that applies if the amount of supplemental state or local funds a campus receives is less than what it would receive under Title I. ESSA permits an LEA to reduce the amount of Title I Part A funds allocated to a Title I Part A campus by the amount of supplemental funds from state or local resources that it spends on programs that meet the intent and purpose of Title I. In addition to the requirements related to allocating Title I Part A funds to campuses, Section 1113 also includes requirements related to LEA reservation of funds. As previously mentioned, LEAs are allowed to reserve Title I Part A funds at the LEA level for required and authorized activities prior to allocating funds to eligible campuses. There are two required reservations noted in Section 1113 that include a reservation to provide services to homeless children and youth, and a reservation to provide services to children in local institutions for neglected children. Please note that there are additional LEA required reservations in other sections of the ESSA Title I Part A statute that will be referenced later in the presentation. Once reservations are determined, Title I Part A campus eligibility has been determined, and campus allocations have been made, campuses can then determine which campus-based Title I Part A program they will be operating, either a school-wide program or a targeted assistance program. Now we will take a look at the differences between the two types of campus-based Title I Part A programs. A school-wide program permits a school to use funds from Title I Part A and other federal programs to upgrade the entire education program in a Title I school to improve the achievement of the lowest achieving students. Generally speaking, to be eligible for a school-wide program, the campus must have a low-income percentage of at least 40%. A campus that will be operating a school-wide program for the first time is required to engage in a one-year planning process that includes engaging in a comprehensive needs assessment process, the development of a school-wide program plan, and implementation of the parent and family engagement requirements referenced in Section 1116 of the ESSA statute. A targeted assistance program provides services to eligible children identified as failing or being most at risk of failing to meet the state's challenging academic standards. Targeted assistance program campuses are either ineligible for a school-wide program or have chosen not to operate a school-wide program. A campus may be served as a targeted assistance campus provided that the campus is Title I Part A eligible, which is at least 35% low income, or equal to or greater than the LEA low income percentage. As previously mentioned, to be eligible for a school-wide program, the campus must have a low income percentage of at least 40%. However, there are several options available for campuses that do not meet the 40% low income threshold and wish to operate a school-wide program. If a campus falls below the 40% school-wide program eligibility low-income required percentage, and they have previously met the 40% threshold, and have previously operated a school-wide program in a previous year, they can use the school-wide previous year provision and remain a school-wide program until the campus is either school-wide eligible on its own or is no longer Title I Part A eligible and cannot be served. Please note that the campus still needs to meet the Title I Part A eligibility criteria. The second option a campus can use to remain a school-wide campus if it does not meet the 40% threshold is a feeder pattern option. This option can be used to establish a campus's Title I Part A eligibility by projection, which is based on the number of low-income students in the school attendance area or attendance areas that feed into that particular campus. The third option is for the LEA to request an EdFlex school-wide program eligibility waiver in the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant application for the campus in question. Please note that newly served campuses must have completed the one-year school-wide transition planning process referenced in the previous slide. If you have any questions related to the eligible school attendance area requirements, please check the frequently asked questions document that is available on our Title I Part A website, or if you find that your question has not been addressed, please send it to us at essasupport@tea.texas.gov.
Section 1114 addresses the requirements related to school-wide programs. There is also a section in the program-specific provisions and assurances that addresses the assurances related to school-wide programs. The general school-wide program requirements are that the campus has 40% or greater poverty and that all students are eligible to benefit from services. There are 3 elements that are required of every school-wide program. Each Title I Part A school-wide program campus must have a Comprehensive Needs Assessment, or CNA, which drives its school-wide program plan or campus improvement plan. The LEA must also have an evaluation of the program's effectiveness. So taking each of these elements one at a time, the Comprehensive Needs Assessment, or CNA, must identify areas of strength and areas of need and must prioritize those needs. The CNA must be based on multiple data sources. Similar to what we discussed earlier about the LEA program plan, there are Title I Part A requirements for the school-wide program plan that must either be incorporated into the Campus Improvement Plan, or CIP, or be addressed in a separate document. There is a timeline for the development of the initial school-wide program plan and specific stakeholders that must be involved in the development of the plan, as well as in its review and revision. The plan must be widely available and be in a format and language that parents can understand. The plan must be coordinated with other programs, and there are several statutorily required descriptions that must be included. See the Title I Part A Program Guide for details about the types of descriptions that are required to be in the school-wide program plan. The third required element of a Title I school-wide program is annually evaluating the school-wide plan using data from the state's assessment, other student performance data, and perception data to determine if the school-wide program has been effective in addressing the major problem areas and in turn increasing student achievement, particularly for the lowest achieving students. Schools must annually revise the plan as necessary based on student needs and the results of the evaluation to ensure continuous improvement. To use Title I Part A funds as a school-wide program, the campus in question must be a Title I Part A school-wide program campus, as identified on the current SC 5000 schedule in the LEA's Consolidated Federal Grant Application. The LEA must either have a valid written supplement not supplant methodology for allocating state and local funds to its campuses, or a valid statement of exemption. Examples of both of these are available in the Supplement Not Supplant Handbook. Activities and resources must be identified in the current year Campus Comprehensive Needs Assessment and included in the current year Campus School-Wide Program Plan or Campus Improvement Plan. The activities and resources must be reasonable, necessary, allocable under the grant, and allowable under Title I Part A. The LEA must ensure that all expenditures meet EDGAR requirements, and the LEA must also ensure that all LEA policies and procedures are followed. If you have questions related to school-wide program requirements, please check the Frequently Asked Questions document that is available on our Title I Part A website. Or if you find that your question has not been addressed, please send it to us at essasupport@tea.texas.gov.
Section 1115 of the Title I Part A statute describes the requirements for campuses operating targeted assistance programs. The statutory requirements in Section 1115 are the basis for the program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances which the LEAs agree to when they complete their consolidated federal grant application. If a campus chooses to operate a targeted assistance program, Title I Part A funds can only be used to provide services to eligible children identified as having the greatest need for special assistance. The campus should first determine which students will be served. Next, the campus should serve participating students identified as eligible children by using Title I Part A resources to help eligible children meet the challenging state academic standards, which may include programs, activities, and academic courses necessary to provide a well-rounded education. The campus should also serve participating students identified as eligible children by using methods and instructional strategies to strengthen the academic program of the school through activities which may include expanded learning time before and after school programs, and summer programs and opportunities, and a school-wide tiered model to prevent and address behavior problems, and early intervening services coordinated with similar activities and services carried out under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The campus should also serve participating students identified as eligible children by coordinating with and supporting the regular education program, which may include services to assist preschool children in the transition from early childhood education programs such as Head Start and other early childhood education programs. The campus should also serve participating students identified as eligible children by providing professional development with resources provided under this part and to the extent practicable from other sources to teachers, principals, other school leaders, paraprofessionals, and if appropriate, specialized instructional support personnel and other school personnel who work with eligible children in programs under this section or in the regular education program. Additionally, the campus should serve participating students identified as eligible children by implementing strategies to increase the involvement of parents of eligible children in accordance with Section 1116. The campus should also serve participating students identified as eligible by, if appropriate and applicable, coordinating and integrating federal, state, and local services and programs, such as programs supported under this Act, violence prevention programs, nutrition programs, housing programs, Head Start programs, adult education programs, career and technical education programs, and comprehensive support improvement activities or targeted support and improvement activities under Section 1111D. Additionally, the campus should serve participating students identified as eligible children by providing to the local educational agency assurances that the school will help provide an accelerated high-quality curriculum, minimize the removal of children from the regular classroom during regular school hours for instruction provided under this part, and on an ongoing basis review the progress of eligible children and revise the targeted assistance program if necessary to provide additional assistance to enable such children to meet the challenging state academic standards. The eligible student population for services in a targeted assistance program includes children not older than age 21 who are entitled to a free public education through grade 12, and children who are not yet at a grade level at which the local educational agency provides a free public education. Eligible children are children identified by the school as failing or most at risk of failing to meet the challenging state academic standards on the basis of multiple educationally related objective criteria established by the local educational agency and supplemented by the school, except that children from preschool through grade 2 shall be selected solely on the basis of criteria, including objective criteria established by the LEA and supplemented by the school. In general, children who are economically disadvantaged, children with disabilities, migrant children, or English learners are eligible for services under this part on the same basis as other children selected to receive services under this part. It is important to note that Title I Part A funds may not be used to provide services that are otherwise required by law to be made available to children described, but may be used to coordinate or supplement such services. We will now take a look at the steps and requirements for use of funds on a targeted assistance program campus. Campuses and LEAs should follow the following steps and requirements when determining allowability for use of Title I Part A funds on a targeted assistance campus. Number one, the campus in question must be a Title I Part A targeted assistance campus. Number two, LEAs must have a valid supplement not supplant methodology for allocating state and local funds to campuses or a statement of exemption. Number three, LEAs should ensure that activities and/or resources are to benefit students meeting the multiple educationally related objective criteria for eligibility that would be defined either in the LEA's Title I Part A program plan or district improvement plan, and if applicable, supplemented in the campus improvement plan. Instructional staff involved in providing services to participating students and/or benefit parents of participating students. Additionally, the activities and/or resources should be identified in the current year campus comprehensive needs assessment and included in the current year campus improvement plan. The plan should address how the activity or resource identified will be evaluated, and the plan should also address how the needs of students at risk of not meeting the state standards are being met. The activities and/or resources and use of funds should be reasonable, necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of the Title I Part A program, allocable, and allowable under Title I Part A. Number four, the LEA assures that the expenditures meet all EDGAR requirements, and the LEA assures that all district policies and procedures were followed. If you have questions related to the Targeted Assistance Program requirements, please check the Frequently Asked Questions document that is available on the Title I Part A website. Or if you find that your question has not been addressed, please send it to us at essasupport@tea.texas.gov.
Section 1116 contains the requirements related to parent and family engagement. Parent and family engagement, or PFE, is a huge part of Title I Part A. The PFE section of the statute is bigger than the school-wide and targeted assistance sections combined. There is a corresponding section in the program-specific provisions and assurances. There are PFE requirements that are specifically assigned to the LEA level. There is a required reservation of funds for PFE activities if the LEA's Title I Part A entitlement is more than $500,000. LEAs that receive more than $500,000 in Title I Part A funds are required to reserve at least 1% of those funds for PFE activities. All LEAs are required to have a written PFE policy. Examples are available on the Title I Part A statewide PFE initiatives website, which Jaime will talk about a little later. There are several requirements for the LEA related to building capacity for parent and family engagement, parents' right to know, and document accessibility. So let's talk a little bit about the reservation of funds that the LEA makes for parent and family engagement activities. First, parents and family members of children receiving Title I Part A services must be involved in decisions about how the funds reserved for parent and family engagement activities are used. Second, there is a required distribution of these funds to campuses. 90% of the required parent and family engagement reservation must be distributed to Title I Part A campuses. The PFE activities for the campus must be jointly agreed on by the campus and the parents. The 10% remaining is for LEA level parent and family engagement activities. These PFE activities must be jointly agreed on by the LEA and the parents and family members receiving services from Title I Part A services from across the LEA. The LEA must take into consideration the needs for the activities across all Title I Part A campuses in the LEA. We have recently received new guidance related to carryover of the PFE reservation. If an LEA's Title I Part A allocation exceeded $500,000 and the LEA reserved the required 1% of its allocation for PFE activities but did not obligate all of that amount by September 30th, the LEA is required to carry over the unobligated amount and add it to the current year PFE reservation. If the LEA reserved more than the required 1%, the carryover requirement only applies to the 1% requirement. For example, if the LEA reserved 2% and obligated 1.5%, the LEA would not be required to carry over the remaining 0.5% into the current year reservation. As another example, if the LEA reserved $100,000 to meet the 1% requirement for the 2021-2022 school year, and the LEA only obligated $90,000 of the $100,000 by September 30th, 2022, the LEA would be required to reserve 1% for the 2022-2023 school year, but also include the $10,000 that remained from its unobligated reservation for the 2021-2022 school year. In other words, the $10,000 in carryover from 21-22 would be in addition to the required reservation for 2022-2023. There are PFE requirements that are specifically assigned to the campus level. These apply to school-wide campuses and to targeted assistance campuses. The LEA should refer to the use of LEA PFE reserved funds on campuses. There must be a PFE written policy for each Title I Part A campus. Each campus must have an annual Title I meeting and must offer a flexible number of meetings in order to maximize parent attendance opportunities. Campuses must involve parents in the development, review, and revision of the PFE policy. Additional requirements related to information dissemination, school parent compacts, building capacity for involvement, document accessibility, and parents' right to know. Please take advantage of the PFE resources that have already been developed by the Title I Part A statewide PFE initiative that Jaime will discuss later. If you have questions related to the parent and family engagement requirements, please check the Frequently Asked Questions document that is available on our Title I Part A website. Or if you find that your question has not been addressed, please send it to us at essa.support@tea.texas.gov.
Section 1117 of the Title I Part A statute describes the requirements for participation of children enrolled in private schools. An LEA that receives Title I funds must reserve a proportional share of those funds to provide equitable services to eligible children who attend a private school. ESSA statute requires an LEA to determine the proportional share of Title I funds available for providing and administering equitable services based on the LEA's total Title I allocation prior to any expenditures or transfers of funds. This means that an LEA applies the proportion used to calculate the proportional share to its entire Title I allocation, including any Title II Part A or Title IV Part A funds that an LEA transfers into Title I Part A prior to the other required and authorized reservations. From the proportional share for equitable services, the LEA must reserve at least 1% to provide engagement activities for parents and families of participating private school children if the LEA's total Title I allocation exceeds $500,000. Please note that there are several other requirements related to Title I Part A private school equitable services that can be found in the ESSA program provisions and assurances. The statutory requirements in Section 1117 are the basis for the program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances, which the LEAs agree to when they complete their consolidated federal grant application. If you have questions related to the private school equitable services requirements, please check the frequently asked questions document that is available on our private school equitable services website. Or if you find that your question has not been addressed, please reach out to Lenitra Guest, Program Director and Private School Equitable Services Ombudsman.
Section 1118 describes the 3 fiscal requirements that apply to Title I Part A. The 3 fiscal requirements are also part of the program-specific provisions and assurances under the General Assurances section. The 3 fiscal requirements are maintenance of effort, supplement not supplant, and comparability of services. Each of these involves a separate training to cover the requirements in depth, but here are the contacts associated with each requirement so that you can direct any questions accordingly. Questions related to MOE, as well as questions related to comparability of services, should be directed to the Federal Fiscal Compliance and Reporting Division. Their email is compliance@tea.texas.gov. Questions related to supplement not supplant should be sent to me at vivian.smurl@tea.texas.gov or to ESSA support@tea.texas.gov.
Section 1119 of the Title I Part A statute describes the requirements for coordination with Head Start and early childhood development programs. The statutory requirements in Section 1119 are the basis for the program-specific and ESSA provisions and assurances, which the LEAs agree to when they complete their consolidated federal grant application. The following requirements are found in the General Assurances section. Each LEA receiving assistance under this part shall carry out the following activities with Head Start agencies and, if feasible, other entities carrying out early childhood development programs serving children who will attend the schools of the LEA, including developing and implementing a systematic procedure for receiving records regarding such children, transferred with parental consent from a Head Start program, or where applicable, another early childhood education program. Establishing channels of communication between school staff and their counterparts, including teachers, social workers, and health staff in such Head Start agencies or other entities carrying out early childhood education programs as appropriate to facilitate coordination of programs. Conducting meetings involving parents, kindergarten or elementary school teachers, and Head Start teachers, or if appropriate, teachers from other early childhood education programs to discuss the developmental and other needs of individual children. Organizing and participating in joint transition-related training of school staff, Head Start program staff, and where appropriate, other early childhood education program staff. And linking the educational services provided by such LEA with the services provided by local Head Start agencies. Each LEA shall develop agreements with such Head Start agencies and other entities to carry out such activities. If you have questions related to coordination requirements, please check the Frequently Asked Questions document that is available on our Title I Part A website, or if you find that your question has not been addressed, please send it to us at essasupport@tea.texas.gov.
Now we would like to go into some more detail about a few of the Title I Part A federal and state resources that are available to assist you. A truly invaluable resource is your Regional Education Service Center. Through the ESSA Basic Services Initiative, TEA has provided each Education Service Center with Title I Part A funds to provide the following training opportunities to LEAs. Training for federal program directors in the fall and the spring, training on school-wide program elements, Title I Part A LEA program plans, various parent and family engagement modules, technical assistance and support related to comprehensive needs assessment requirements, campus improvement plan requirements, parent and family engagement requirements, the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application, the Title I Part A LEA Program Plan, ESSA Consolidated Compliance Reports, the Title I Part A Supplement Not Supplant Methodology, Title I Part A Equitable Services for Private Schools, and random validations. The following documents are available through our Title I Part A webpage: the ESSA statute, the Education Department General Administrative Regulations, or EDGAR, the U.S. Department of Education non-regulatory guidance documents related to using evidence to strengthen education investments, within district allocations under Title I Part A, and school-wide programs. USDE guidance documents are also available for the education of homeless children and youth, early childhood education, and ensuring educational stability for children in foster care.
The TEA Title I Part A webpage provides links to many Title I Part A related resources. TEA resources for administering the Title I Part A program include the Program-Specific and ESSA Provisions and Assurances document, the program guidelines that are published annually with the most current ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application, and the General and Fiscal Guidelines. There are also several program guides and handbooks that are also available as resources for administering the Title I Part A program. They include the Title I Part A Program Guide, ESSA Private Nonprofit Equitable Services Program Guide, the Title I Part A Campus Selection and SC 5000 Handbook, and the Program Compliance Self-Check Guide that is published annually with the most current compliance reporting process. An additional resource is a TEA Title I Part A Frequently Asked Questions document that contains over 300 questions and responses that is organized by topic. There are also several instructions documents related to the ESSA Consolidated Application and Compliance Report. The following resources are available related to the 3 fiscal requirements for Title I Part A that were referenced earlier in the presentation. There's a Supplement Not Supplant Handbook. There's an ESSA LEA Maintenance of Effort or MOE Guidance Handbook. And there's also a Title I Part A Comparability of Services Guidance Handbook available. There are also some use of funds guidance documents that are available. They include the Budgeting Costs Guidance Handbook and the Title I Part A Use of Funds Guidance document. TEA also provides funding to several Title I Part A statewide initiatives that develop resources for implementation of various statutory requirements. The Title I Part A Parent and Family Engagement Statewide Initiative has resources related to the parent and family engagement requirements referenced in ESSA Title I Part A Section 1116. The statewide ESSA Title I Part A Capacity Building Initiative also provides resources related to Title I Part A requirements. One of the resources that is currently housed on the statewide ESSA Title I Part A Capacity Building Initiative website includes the Collaborative Comprehensive Needs Assessment Toolkit. This is a resource toolkit to engage in the comprehensive needs assessment process across several federal programs.
We hope we have given you at least a starting place for finding the Title I Part A requirements and the related resources that are available.
This concludes the Title I Part A for Beginners training presentation. We hope that you found the information in this presentation helpful. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you.